The Buccaneers appear closer to getting a key player back from injury. That and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome into this episode of Locked On Bucs, your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listener view every day. Don't forget you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, you can follow along on Twitter. I am James Yarcho at JYarcho_Bucs, credentialed member of the media covering your Tampa Bay Buccaneers, here with you every Monday through Friday along with the everydayers. And for that, I want to share my appreciation for your continued support of the show. One of the ways you can support the show is become a Locked On Bucs insider. You're going to get news, rumors, updates, general thoughts, one-on-one conversations with me via text message. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes to become an insider today. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Looking ahead to the second half of the schedule and dropping some predictions, that is all coming up in a little bit. But first, let's start with some good news on the injury front. The Buccaneers have opened the 21-day window for the return of Goedeke to come back from his foot injury that got him placed on IR after the Week 2 game against the Houston Texans. When he tried to play through it, ended up leaving the game early and has been out ever since. So Goedeke will be eligible to be activated off of injured reserve at any point during the 21-day window. But I don't think he is going to be back and ready this coming week against the Patriots. Optimistically, he's going to be back against the Bills next week. But if that doesn't work, we should certainly see him in that primetime game in Los Angeles against the Rams. I'll talk more about that game coming up in a little bit. But this is a huge step for the Bucs in getting things on the offensive side of the ball back on track. They have struggled the last few weeks, and a big reason for that has been the injuries as well as the performance of the offensive line. Goedeke returning improves the run and pass blocking immediately, and it will start to get things straightened out for this offense. I still think that we need to see more out of Michael Jordan there at the right guard position, or he could wind up being replaced by Luke Haggard once he's back from injury. But the other big thing, in order for the Bucs to get back on track offensively, is getting back Bucky Irving. Now, I will talk more about Jalen McMillan in just a minute, but Bucky, I think, is the guy that really changes and unlocks what the offense is going to be able to do moving forward. And while Rashad and Sean Tucker did a decent job in his absence, neither one of them are the big play threat in the offense that Bucky has been. And I think that has really hindered what the offense has been able to do to a degree. It has hindered what Josh Grizzard wants to do to a degree. The run game overall has been pretty bad. The Bucs are 24th in the NFL in rushing, averaging just 98.1 yards per game. That's just not going to cut it. If you are going to make a deep playoff run, that has to drastically improve. And Bucky, I think, is going to change that in a big way once he returns. At that point, the pressure isn't on Baker as much to keep the offense afloat without most of his weapons. Ibuka is still out there. He got that bye week to rest that hamstring. He's going to look more like himself. Tez Johnson is emerging. And I think once they get Godwin back, which I believe will be sooner than later, unless this new injury is worse than what they're letting on, like in the case of Jalen McMillan, I think you're really going to start to see the offense open up. But let's talk about the Jaylen McMillan situation for just a minute. We talked about it on the Buccaneers squad show on Sunday. Most of you have probably heard by now, but McMillan's injury is worse than what we were told initially. So when McMillan went down in that preseason game against the Steelers, we were told it was a severe neck strain. Turns out he is dealing with a broken bone in his neck. That's what Todd Bowles told the guys on the Ira Kaufman podcast. So that's why McMillan is still in the neck brace. And the rumors have been that he won't be back until December. I want to take a moment to give my stance on that. First and foremost, for the sake of McMillan's long-term health and quality of life, he should not sniff a football field until everything is healed. Not close to it, not, in a window where he can start to participate. No, I don't want to see him start activities at all until that injury is 100% healed. When you are dealing with a neck, that thing needs to be 100% and nothing less. You could potentially put your life at risk going back out there onto that field too early, and you could wind up paralyzed. I realize that the likelihood of that isn't a big one, but it's a much larger likelihood than a fully healthy player going out there. These guys go out there and they put their body through enormous punishment. They take risks every time they're on the field. But when you're dealing with a neck and one bad hit, one blindside hit, one, in college they call it targeting, one of those could land McMillan in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody. So McMillan needs to be beyond sure that he is ready to return. And if that means shutting him down for the rest of the season to give him almost a full calendar year before he comes back, then do it. Absolutely do it. McMillan he's a great guy. He's a young, I'm going to call him a kid because I'm an old man now. He's a young kid. His life is not worth going back out onto that field too soon. The Buccaneers Super Bowl window is not closing after the 2025 season. So if he needs that full almost calendar year before he's back and he's participating in training camp, then let him take it. Listen to those doctors. Do not push him out on the field. And at the end of the day, from a football standpoint, I think the Bucs would be okay without him this season. Tez has stepped up in a huge way. You do have Chris coming back. You have Evans hopefully coming back for at least the playoffs, maybe the tail end of the regular season. You have Cade Otton becoming a bigger part of the passing game rather than staying in and blocking. This offense, while it won't be as dangerous or as explosive, could survive without McMillan this year. I want him to come back. You guys all want him to come back, but not at the expense of his future. That's my biggest concern. He is only 23 years old. He's going to be 24 in December. It is not worth the long-term risk to have him out there. And we know he's a competitor. We know that he is going to push himself to get back out there, especially if the team is struggling. If he is stuck on the sidelines watching Baker struggle to move the ball down the field because Goedeke is double and triple teamed and you don't have Chris and you don't have Mike, he is going to be chomping at the bit to get out there and help his teammates, help his friends win games. But it's not the end of the world if it takes him another month or another 6 weeks to be back. When he returns, everybody wants him to be fully healthy. And you go back to that injury, you go back to that pass, and I know it probably made Teddy sick to his stomach when it happened. It made a lot of fans sick to their stomach when it happened. It sucked. It was a terrible, unfortunate injury for him to land the way that he did and be out for this long. But you know what? For the long-term success of him as an individual, for the long-term success for the Buccaneers as a team, if he doesn't come back this season, I still believe that this team will be all right. We just want to see McMillan all right before he starts to put those pads back on and gets back out onto the field. All right, we are looking ahead to the rest of the season. That is coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it, because it also helps you correct your form in real time, and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. The Part Finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters, and their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHNFL and the number 5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Thank you again for making Locked On Bucs your first listener review every single day. All right, let's take a look at what the Buccaneers have ahead of them in the second half of the season. So you have the Patriots at home, then you're at Buffalo, at the Rams on Sunday Night Football, home against the Cardinals on Simeon Rice Day, home against the Saints, home against the Falcons on Thursday night in the throwback game, at Carolina, at Miami, home against Carolina. That's how things shake out the rest of the year. So you open at home, back-to-back on the road, 3 straight at home before you get another back-to-back on the road, and then you finish the season at home. Here's the thing with this schedule. After the next 3 weeks, you have these next 3 games, it opens up almost in the same way that last year's post-bye schedule opened up when the Bucs went on an absolute tear. The Bucs, you would hope, go 2-1 at least over the course of the next 3 games, but one of those wins has to be against the Rams. The Bucs could go 1-2. Okay, you don't want to see that. You want to see the Bucs stay in the win column more often than not. But if they go 1-2, they have to beat the Rams. Right now, the Bucs are in second place in the NFC behind the Eagles and ahead of the Los Angeles Rams. You need that tiebreaker. You already lost the head-to-head to Philly, and you lost the head-to-head to Detroit. You cannot lose the head-to-head tiebreaker with the Rams as well. The Rams and Eagles both have tougher schedules down the stretch, so the path not just to the NFC South title, but the path to the 1 seed is very attainable. But you are not going to get there without beating Los Angeles. The AFC games, yeah, you want to win those. Absolutely. You want to beat 2 teams that are considered contenders in that division, in that conference, especially the Buffalo Bills. But the NFC games are flat out much, much more important. So let's play a little game here. Let's play the what if game. All right, what if the Bucs come out of that bye and they lose back-to-back games to the Patriots and the Bills? That puts them at 6-4. Not ideal, considering the Panthers are currently at 5-4, and they're starting to heat up a little bit. But hey, sometimes things like that happen. So let's say that they're 6-4 after those first 2 games after the bye. Then we're going to go ahead and say they beat the Rams. Now they're at 7-4. What is a likely or probable outlook the rest of the way? Now, I'm not making my official predictions for the Pats, the Bills, or the Rams game. at this moment in time. But here's what I truly think will wind up happening once they get through the 3-game stretch there. The Cardinals at home, that's a win. Saints at home, that's a win. Falcons at home, win. At Carolina, tough road game, tough divisional game, but I think they win that one. And then you're at the disasters. I mean, the Dolphins, that's a win. So now you're sitting at 12-4. You have matched the record that you had before the bye, after the bye, and you still have a home game left against the Panthers where you might be in a position to rest your starters. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're still battling for that 1 seed. The Panthers very well could be battling for a wild card spot. So that game could end up meaning much more to them than it does to the Buccaneers. But I think it's a very plausible outcome that heading into week 18, the Buccaneers are sitting at 12-4. The Rams the rest of the way, at the Niners versus Seattle versus Tampa, at Carolina, at Arizona versus Detroit, at Seattle, at Atlanta versus Arizona. That's an overall tougher stretch than Tampa. What about Philly? At Green Bay, on the road against Detroit, at Green Bay, home against Detroit, at Dallas, against Chicago, at the Chargers, against the Raiders, at the Commanders, at the Bills, against the Commanders. Again, tougher stretch than Tampa, not by much, especially considering both of those Commanders games are going to be played without Jaden Daniels, and it's still tougher. They could easily lose to the Packers, the Lions, and the Bills. I would have thrown the Chargers in there as a potential loss, but with them losing Joe Alt and having both of their offensive tackles out for the rest of the season, I'm not sure that they can handle Philly's defense, especially after they just made the move for Jalen Phillips in a trade with Miami. But you all see my point. The path to the postseason and a first-round bye is well within reach for this Buccaneers team. You get Goedeke and Bucky back, and you play a game or two, then you get Godwin back, then a couple weeks later you get McMillan back, and a couple weeks later you get Evans back. This team has the potential and the path to be an absolute juggernaut heading into the postseason with an offense that has its full allotment of weapons and not a single defense in the NFL that would be able to match up against them and stop all of them. That's what we talked about all offseason long. How are any of these defenses going to be able to face a team that can spread out 4 wide with Evans, Godwin, Ibuka, and McMillan and have Bucky Irving in the backfield? Nobody can. I don't care who the Eagles have traded for. I don't care that they got Jair Alexander from the Ravens. I don't care that they got Jalen Phillips from the Dolphins. You spread them out 4 wide like that. Not only are you going to have some level of mismatch at the receiver position, but now you've got all this open space for Bucky Irving. And don't forget about Cade Otton. Don't forget about the fact that you can bring Tez Johnson into the game, and he's just a lightning in a bottle and a huge play waiting to happen anytime he gets his hands on the ball. You add to the ability all of those pieces coming back, that bye week to open the playoffs, and then the ability to have the divisional round and a conference championship in your house, not going to Philly, not going to Detroit, not going to Los Angeles. That is huge. Now, the Panthers are hot right now. That is absolutely going to be a tough matchup when the Bucs have to travel there in, week 16. The Falcons are always a tough matchup. But right now, they can't win on the road to save their lives. They are the most Jekyll and Hyde team that I can think of in the NFL right now. This Buccaneers team is set up for success. And even if they come out of the bye week rusty and losing 2 games, that number 1 seed is very much in play. second half predictions. That is coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs. NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. The defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder are the favorites to win the NBA Finals right now at plus 200, followed by the Denver Nuggets at plus 650, the Cleveland Cavaliers at plus 700, then the New York Knicks at plus 1200. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Wrapping things up here on today's episode of Locked On Bucs. And all right, let's have some fun. All right, let's have some fun with some predictions here heading into the second half of the season. And I'm going to start, as we always do with these kinds of things, with the quarterback, Baker Mayfield. Right now, Baker Mayfield has 1,919 yards and 13 passing touchdowns through 8 games. My prediction here is that he finishes with over 4,000 passing yards and over 30 touchdowns. The yards were basically doubling this, okay? So that part isn't super bold. But this would be a pace of over 2 touchdown passes per game the rest of the season. He currently has 3 games with 1 or fewer touchdowns. I'm calling it right now. He does not have another game this season without at least 1 touchdown pass. But how about the running game? We've talked a lot about the return of Luke Goedeke, the return of Bucky Irving. Rachaad White is the leading rusher with 287 yards. Now, Bucky has 237 rushing yards through the 4 games that he has played, but no rushing touchdowns. That is wild. I am calling for Bucky to finish with over 900 yards, and he's going to get 5 rushing touchdowns. He's about to go on an absolute tear, and they are facing some defenses, Miami, Buffalo, New Orleans, Atlanta, that are among the bottom third in the NFL in run defense. And you know, we are not going to go through a segment like this and not talk about Emeka Egbuka. 562 yards, 5 touchdowns already this season. How about he finishes with 1,300 yards and 11 touchdowns? He is about to get back on track for Offensive Rookie of the Year. He and Baker are going to start linking up again, and he is going to see a second half of the season that looks a lot like his first 6 games this year. Again, Bucky returning, Godwin returning. Hopefully you get McMillan back. Hopefully you get Evans back. With the emergence of Tez Johnson, all of this is going to play into Egbuka's favor, where defenses cannot just focus solely on him. They have to be able to account for the other playmakers on the field. What about defense? All-pro caliber season for Jamel Dean with 3 interceptions in the first 8 games. How about 2 more interceptions and a second touchdown? Dean is absolutely balling this year. He is reading routes well. He is making great breaks, and he's actually securing the ball. I think he continues to shine and make massive splash plays for this defense. Yaya Diaby, 4 sacks on the season, 7 tackles for loss. Yaya's going to hit double-digit sacks. He can get 6 in the last 9 games of the season. He gets to face Tyler Shuck again. He gets to face Stafford, who isn't exactly mobile. He gets to face Kyler Murray or Jacoby Brissett, who've been beaten half to death this season. He gets Tua, who holds onto the ball way too long and gets hit over and over again. There are some juicy matchups for Yaya Diaby down the stretch. I think he gets to 10 with a couple of games to spare. How about the defense as a whole, though? Instead of, just naming out singular players on the defense, what about them as an entity? A +7 turnover differential this season for the Buccaneers. The defense has 12 takeaways, 7 interceptions, 5 fumbles. Those are good numbers. The Bucs are 4th in the NFL in total takeaways behind the Bears, Steelers, and Jaguars. How about this Buccaneers team finishes the season with 28 takeaways? Some turnover-prone teams coming up for them: Arizona, Carolina, New Orleans, Miami, New England. All of these teams have a 0 or a negative turnover differential this year. Miami is the worst in the league in giveaways with 15. Carolina has given the ball away 13 times. You get them twice. New Orleans has turned it over 14 times. You get them one more time, and this time you get them in your house. This defense, with the way it has played the last 2 games, it can really become opportunistic and dangerous with these takeaways in these matchups. And just for reference, the Buccaneers only had 18 takeaways all of last season. They have as many interceptions through 8 weeks this year as they did in all of 2024. Todd Bowles wanted ball hawks. He got them. Last one, and this is for the team as a whole. I think the Buccaneers finished the season 13-4. I really, really do. If they don't lose any more key pieces to injury and they start getting these other players back, they are an incredibly dangerous team. I do think that they go 2-1 out of the bye. I would, if I had to put money on it right now, I would say that they can beat the Patriots. They'll lose to the Bills. They'll beat the Rams. You know, this has been a year of bucking trends. They haven't been able to win in primetime. They did it. They haven't been able to win in the throwbacks. They've done it twice. You know, they haven't been able to beat the 49ers with Todd Bowles as a coach on this staff, whether it was a coordinator or as the head coach. They did that. The Rams have been a team that have had the Bucs number for years. I think they can overcome that as well. And then after that, I feel like they get one more loss somewhere in there over the last 6 games, but 13 wins is very, very attainable for this Buccaneers team. And like I said, if they get the 1 seed with the bye and home field in the playoffs, watch out. All those weapons back, getting to play in front of your fans, that could make for a really interesting postseason. I've said it over and over this year. My feelings have not changed despite the struggles the last 2 games. This team is special. There's something about them that just feels different. We are going to see that come to a head in the second half of the year. That's going to do it for this episode. Please check out everything going on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at @JYarcho_Bucs, Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Bucs. In both of those places, make sure you are subscribed on YouTube with the notifications turned on, as well as wherever you get your podcasts. Become a Locked On Bucs insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes. If you want to support the show, but you don't want to be an insider, it's real simple. Like this episode on YouTube, leave a 5-star review wherever you get podcasts. It does help other Buccaneers fans find the show. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding day. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. I want to thank you so much for joining me right here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.